words of our Divine Mother. Our Divine Mother says integral yoga can be called an adventure because it is the first time that a yoga aims at transformation and divinization of physical life instead of escape from it. With always my love and blessings, says our Divine Mother.
Consecrated solely to thy service. Brahmarpanam Brahma Havihi Brahmagnau Brahmanahutam Brahme Vatena Gantavyam Brahma Karma Samadhina Etat sarvam Om Brahmarpanamastu Om Brahmarpanamastu Om Neela Jalam Viram Nayanam Gaurangim Sharavindu Sundaramukhem Vismeram Bimbadhanam Karunyam Rinavashinim Hariharam Hadivirvanditam Jayet Sarvajanet Siddhartha Vande Meeram Jagat Vande Meeram Jagat Meera Namayva Namayva Mama Jivanam Meera Namayva Mama Jivanam Meera Namayva Sharanam Meera Namayva Sharanam Meera Mama Sharanam Meera Mama Sharanam.
Words of our Divine Mother and our Lord Sri Aurobindo, taken from the compilations of the works of our Lord and our Divine Mother, book Psychic Being by Dr. Karan Singh. Topic Emergence of the Psychic Being, page 85. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says the soul in itself contains all possible strength, but most of it is held behind the veil, and it is what comes forward in the nature that makes the difference. In some people, the psychic element is strong, and in others, weak. In some people, the mind is the strongest part and governs. In others, the vital is the strongest part and leads or drives. But by sadhana, the psychic being can be more and more brought forward till it is dominant and governs the rest. If it were already governing, then the struggles and difficulties of the mind and vital would not be at all be severe, for each man in the light of the psychic would see and feel the truth and more follow it. Psychic being, says our Lord, is behind the wheel and its consciousness as well. Only a little comes out in the mind, vital and physical. When that consciousness is not concealed, when you are aware of your soul, the psychic being, when its feelings and consciousness are yours, then you have got the consciousness of the psychic being. The feelings and aspirations of the psychic being are all turned towards truth and right consciousness and the divine. Our Lord says the psychic being is always there, but it is not felt because it is covered up by the mind and vital, and when it is no longer covered up, it is then said to be awake. When it is awake, it begins to take hold of the rest of the being, to influence it and change it, so that all become the true expression of the inner soul. It is this change that is called the inner conversion. There can be no conversion without the awakening of the psychic being. When the psychic being awakens, you grow conscious of your own soul, you know yourself, and you no longer commit the mistake of identifying yourself with the mental or the vital being. You do not mistake them for the soul. Secondly, when awakened, the psychic being gives true bhakti for God or for the Guru. When awakened, the psychic being gives true bhakti for God or for the Guru. That bhakti is quite different from mental or vital bhakti. In the mind, one may have more admiration or appreciation for the intellectual greatness of the man or the Guru, but it is merely mental. It cannot carry the matter very far. Of course, there is no harm in having that as well, but by itself, it does not open the whole of the inner being. It only establishes a mental contact. The vital bhakti demands and demands. It imposes its own conditions. It surrenders itself to God, but conditionally. It says to God, "You are so great, I worship you, and now you satisfy my desire or ambition. Make me great, make me a great sadhak, a great yogi, etc." The unillumined mind also surrenders to the truth, but it makes its own conditions. It says to the truth, "Satisfy my judgment and my opinion." It demands that the truth cast itself in the mind's own forms. The vital being also insists on the truth to throw itself into its own moment of force. The vital being pulls up at the higher power and pulls at the vital being of the Guru. Both the mental and vital have got a mental reservation in the surrender. But the psychic being and its bhakti are not like that, because it is in direct communication with the divinity behind. It is capable of true bhakti. Psychic bhakti does not make any demand, makes no reservation. It is satisfied with its own existence. The psychic being knows how to obey the truth in the right way. It gives itself up truly to God or to Guru, because it can give itself up truly, therefore it can also receive truly. Thirdly, when the psychic being comes to the surface, it feels sad when the mental or the vital being is making a fool of itself. That sadness is purity offended. When the mind is playing its own game, or when the vital is carried away by its own impulses, It is the psychic being which says, I do not want these things. What am I here for, after all? I am here for the truth. I am not here for these things. Our Lord says psychic sadness is again different from mental dissatisfaction or the vital sadness or the physical depression. If the psychic being is strong, it makes itself felt on the mental or the vital being and forces them, compels them to change, but it is weak. The other parts take advantage of it, use the psychic sadness to their own advantage. In some cases, the psychic being comes to the surface, upsets the mental or the vital, throws everything into disorder. But if the mind or the vital is stronger than the psychic, then it can cast only an occasional influence, gradually retires behind. All its cry in the wilderness and the mental and the vital being goes in its own round. Lastly, the psychic being refuses to be deceived by appearances. It is not carried away by falsehood. It refuses to be depressed by falsehood, nor does it exaggerate the truth. For example, even if everything says around you there is no God, the psychic being refuses to believe in it. It says, I know because I feel. And because it knows the thing behind, it is not deceived by any appearances. It immediately feels the force. Also, when the psychic being is awakened, says our Lord, it throws out all the dross from the emotional being and makes it free from sentimentalization or the lower play of emotionalism. But it does not carry in it the dryness of the mind or the exaggeration of the vital feelings. It gives just the touch to each emotion, says our Lord Sri Aurobindo. Our Lord continues to say, the conversion which keeps the consciousness turned towards the light and makes the right attitude spontaneous and natural, and abiding and rejection also spontaneous, is the psychic conversion. Let me repeat. The conversion which keeps the consciousness turned towards the light and makes the right attitude spontaneous and natural, and abiding and rejection also spontaneous, is the psychic conversion. That is to say, man usually lives in his vital, body is its instrument and the mind is its counselor, minister, except for a few mental, most of the things of the mind, subjection to the vital. The spiritual conversion begins. The spiritual conversion begins when the soul begins to insist on a deeper life and is complete when the psychic being becomes the basis or the leader of the consciousness, and mind and vital and body are led by it and obey it. Of course, if that once happens fully, doubt, depression, despair cannot come any longer, although they may be and are difficulties still. If it is not fully fundamentally accomplished, even then these things either do not come or are brief passing clouds on the surface, for there is a rock of support and certitude at the base, which, even if partially covered, cannot disappear altogether. In using the expression opening of the psychic, says our Lord, I was thinking not of an ordinary psychic opening producing some amount of psychic, as opposed to the vital love and bhakti, but of what is called the coming in front of the psychic. The coming in front of the psychic. And when that happens, one is aware of the psychic being with its simple, spontaneous self giving and feels its increasing direct contact, not merely a veiled or half veiled influence over mind, vital, and physical. Especially, there is the psychic discernment which at once lights up the thoughts, emotional movements, vital pushes, physical habits, and leaves nothing there obscure, substituting the right movements to the wrong ones. It is this that is difficult, and rather, more often, the discernment is mental, and it is the mind that tries to pull all in order. In that case, it is the descent of the higher consciousness through the mind that opens the psychic instead of the psychic opening directly, says our Lord Sri Aurobindo. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo continues to say, what is meant by the psychic's coming to the front is simply this. The psychic ordinarily is deep within. Very few people are aware of their souls. When they speak of their soul, they usually mean the vital, mental, or else the false soul of desire. The psychic remains behind and acts only through the mind, vital and physical, wherever it can. For this reason, says our Lord, the psychic being, except where it is very much developed, has only a small and partial, concealed and mixed or diluted influence on the life of most men. By coming forward is meant that it comes from behind the veil. Its presence is felt already in the waking daily consciousness. Its influence fills, dominates, transforms the mind and vital, and their moments, even the physical. One is aware of one's soul, feels the psychic to be one's true being. The mind and the rest begin to be only instruments of the inmost within us. Question, sweet mother, to keep the psychic awake and in front. What does that mean, in front? For this, our Divine Mother says, that is to say, in the forefront of the consciousness, instead of being pushed behind in the background, which is only very rarely seen, to keep it right in front of the consciousness, in the active consciousness. Question, sweet mother, how can one know whether the psychic being is in front or not? For this, our Divine Mother says, it is not felt. No, you don't feel it. I am not speaking of a small child, for it has no means of control or observation. It lacks the capacity of observation. But then, when is no longer a baby, doesn't one feel it? It doesn't make any difference. The child nods in assent. Then our Divine Mother says, there is not one of you who will dare to tell me that it makes no difference when the psychic is there, when one feels better within oneself, when one is full of light, hope, goodwill, generosity, compassion for the world, sees life as a field of action, progress, realization. Doesn't it make a difference from the days when one is bored, grumbling, when everything seems ugly, unpleasant, wicked? When one loves nobody, wants to break everything, gets angry, feels at ease, without strength, without energy, without any joy. That makes a difference, doesn't it? For this the child says, sweet mother, how can one know that the psychic being is in front? For this our Divine Mother says, my dear child, when it happens, one understands. It is exactly so long as one doesn't understand that it means that it hasn't come. This is like people asking you, how can I know whether I am in contact with the divine? That itself is enough to prove that they are not. For if they are, they can no longer ask this question. It is something understood. For the psychic, it is the same thing. When the psychic is in front, one knows it, and there is no possibility of any doubt. Consequently, one no longer asks the question. A central love, bhakti, surrender, giving everything a sight within that sees always clearly what is spiritually right or wrong and automatically rejects the later, a moment of entire consecration and dedication of all in one to the mother is the sign of the psychic coming forward, says our Lord Sri Aurobindo. Question, sweet mother, but what sign can one tell that the psychic being has come to the surface? For this, our Divine Mother says, one feels peaceful, happy, full of trust, full of a deep and true benevolence, very close to the Divine Presence. When the psychic being comes in front, there is no automatic perception of the true untrue, divine undivine, the spiritual right and wrong of things, and the false vital mental movements. Attacks, immediately they're all exposed and fall away and can do nothing. Gradually, the vital, physical, as well as the mind get full of the psychic light and truth and sound feeling and purity. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says some of these experiences can come by an opening of the inner mental, inner vital, inner larger, subtler mind, heart, and life within us without any full emergence of the soul, the psychic entity, since there too there is a power of direct contact of consciousness. But the experience might then be of a mixed character, for there could be an emergence not only of the subliminal knowledge but of the subliminal ignorance.